We're going to get kicked off. So welcome everybody. Today's demo day. We're going to hand over to Arlo, who's going to show us around some of the new functionality that we've built, connecting to and kind of integrating with Confluent Cloud. So with that, Arlo, hand over to you. Get things kicked off.
All right. Thanks, John. Yeah, so I'm Arlo Purcell, software engineer here at Protobuf. We're going to talk a little bit today about kind of connecting up with the Confluent Cloud, connecting up to your topics that live there. So to kind of demonstrate that, we're going to talk. Let me share my screen. Okay, so we're getting Confluent Cloud here, and we have some topics that we have set up. So we're going to take some airline data that comes in as XML and parse in some stuff from that and output it to another topic in Kafka. So this is what the input data looks like. It's each record is going to look like this. It has this flight route element, and then there's a whole bunch of different things in here. Things like the flight number, the number of seats, departure, airport, terminal time, all that sort of stuff. And that lives here in this airline events XML topic in the Confluent Cloud. So what we're going to do is we're going to parse out this XML into a bunch of fields that we actually care about, and put it into a different topic, which is this airline events topic here. So if we open up this topic and look at the schema, it's an Avro schema, which looks like this, and you see there's a whole bunch of different fields in here that we're going to want to pull out. So we're going to create a connection that reads the topics out of Confluent Cloud. They'll make a decodable pipeline which reads off of this XML stuff, parses it out, and then outputs it to another decodable stream. And then the decodable connection will take that data from the decodable stream and output it into this other topic in Confluent Cloud. So we're going to actually start out by creating the sync connection. This is the one that's going to output from the internal stream, the decodable stream, into your Confluent Cloud topic. So you just say new connection, click Confluent Cloud thing here, and then you have to get some little bits of data from your Confluent Cloud. So I can show you where to get that stuff. You go to your cluster overview, cluster settings, and that has the cluster ID here, so we can just copy that, paste it here. The REST endpoint similarly, copy, paste. To get the next thing we need here is the cluster API key and secret, which we can get from data integration on the side, API keys. And you can see I already have one, so I'm just going to from my other window that you guys can't see. So I have that here. Just a copy and paste. It's going to be, oops, grab the wrong thing here. It's going to be an Avro format, so we just select that and we go ahead and say next. Now what this is doing is it's using that API key and REST endpoint to get a list of all the topics you have in your cluster. And you can see this is the same list of topics we had over in the other window. In particular, so this is the sync, as I mentioned. So, actually, I may have made a mistake here. Yeah, so we're making a sync actually. So I have to quickly copy and paste this stuff again. All right. Grab this, grab that. Yeah, exactly. So, okay. So we're outputting to this airline events topic in our Confluent Cloud. We want to put this, we're going to get the data for this connection from a new stream, which we're going to create here. So the stream and the connection we're going to create together, we'll call it airline events. And then we can just go next. So normally, if you wanted to create a connection or a stream, you have to add all these fields manually, which if you remember, there's a whole bunch of fields that we wanted to copy over. So that would be like kind of a pain. So what's nice is now you can actually connect up to the Schema Registry, the Confluent Cloud Schema Registry. So you get that, you can go here, Schema Registry. Again, we need the REST endpoint and then the API key and secret. And these are different endpoints, API and API secrets than the cluster stuff. So you have to make sure that you get them separately. Again, I already have credentials here. You could create a new credential here. I already have them, so I'm just gonna copy paste what I already have. And that's it. We can derive the schema that we need from the schema registry just from your topic name that we already selected. So we just have to name the schema, which we'll call Airline Events, and we create the connection. And then we're gonna, first of all, make sure we activate it. This way, I'll actually go ahead and copy that data from the stream and put it into the topic, Confluent Cloud topic. So it actually derived the schema from the Avro schema we got from the schema registry. All these fields you didn't have to type in manually, which is a huge, time savings. So next we would actually create the source connection. I went ahead and did that ahead of time just to save us a little bit of time here. It's basically the process is exactly the same. It's a much simpler schema, so I thought it was a little bit less interesting. So that's why I did the sync one instead. The only thing left to do now is to create that pipeline. So we'll go ahead and say new pipeline. The input stream is going to be this Airline Events XML, which is the raw XML stream. The output is Airline Events, the one that stream and connection that we just created. So we're just going to quickly go ahead and run preview here, which is just the basic select star from Airline Events XML. So we'll be able to see what that looks like. It takes about 30 seconds or so to get the results from the preview. So that should come up momentarily, but I can show you the SQL that we're going to be using to do the parsing. I was hoping to get the results so we could look at that. So here we go. So this is the raw events from the Airline Events XML. So you can see there's a time field. Maybe it's a little easier if I do that. You see each of these events has a time field, which is with our data generator, it's not actually providing a time field, but we're not looking at that, so it's not a huge deal. And the XML is just this big old chunk of XML, which is really long and hard to decipher. So we're going to have to decipher it using some of the functions that the code will provide. So this is our SQL statement, which I copy pasted, but we'll start at the inside and work our way out. So I'm going to hit preview because that takes a little bit of time. We're using this XPath function, which you pass in as the first argument an XML blob, which is that field that we looked at already. And then pairs of string arguments, which is the key and an XPath expression. And then what this at these various XPaths. And then
yeah, I think we lost him.
Oh, you guys lost me?
Hear you now.
Okay.
Breaking up a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that.
No worries.
Anyway, while we're waiting for the preview results, which should be coming momentarily, do we have any questions before we move on?
Where's the data coming from, the XML?
The XML data is coming from, I have a data gen process that's running locally that's just kind of putting this XML data into the topic, the topic in Confluent Cloud. But you could imagine it's coming from anywhere that you might be getting, your Kafka input data.
Some legacy system that uses XML.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So
Hey, Arlo, can you check if the source connection is activated?
Yes, well, let me. Now let's pull up a new window. I think it might be that my local machine network was a little flaky, so I might have just lost some events there. that might be what we're looking at. But so this is the source connection that we talked about before. You can see it does seem to be active with some events, but it's a little lower than I'd expect. But now it's kind of picking up. So here, so eventually we actually did get some results here. Again, this is just because of my own personal network connectivity issues. So you can see now, instead of just that big flat XML, we're getting parsed out records. And notably, we have like this looks like a string, but it's actually a date in the Kafka, and in the topic itself, it's parsed as a date. And then like seats here is actually an integer because we're doing some casting in the SQL. And so that's about it. And so we can go ahead and then create the pipeline itself, which we can call parse airline events. Go ahead and create the pipeline. Make sure we activate that pipeline. That'll take about a minute or two to start moving the data around. But once it does, we'll get that same data that we saw in the preview in our output Kafka topic in Confluent Cloud. So that's the demo. I'm glad to take any questions, and we can kind of go into more detail on any parts that we see or anything that we didn't cover.
There's a question from Robert about supporting different schema registry. I think we don't have that, but we do have a way for users to copy over the Arlo, JSON, or Protobuf schema files. Can you show that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to go ahead and create a new connection, some arbitrary Kafka connection, I'll just put something in here to whatever. Maybe you want to say, oh, it's an Avro schema again. Next, again, we'll say it's a new stream, new stream. I'm trying to get to the schema part. So instead of picking Schema Registry, which is only available right now for Confluent Cloud connectors, you can say structured schema definition. And from here, you can just say we support Avro schemas. We also support JSON schemas. So if you just say Avro, you go ahead and copy paste your Avro schema in here. And we'll derive the schema the same way that we do from the Schema Registry. In fact, it uses the same code. We just, instead of getting it from the Schema Registry, you can just cut paste directly.
And the current options are Avro and JSON.
That's right. Yeah.
And but not yet Protobuf.
Not yet Protobuf. There's some complexity there that we're looking at and working on, but it's not there yet.
Robert, do you have a use case for Protobuf?
DoorDash uses Protobuf throughout its in its pipelines. So there's lots of use cases. Yeah.
I see. So do you?
It's the standard format.
Got it. Do you use that inside Kafka too? Like for I see.
Yeah, and I think we have our own schema registry, which is why I ask.
Got it. Interesting. So you would use if you want to write those data using the Protobuf schema to Kafka, then you guys use the Protobuf serializer.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, we have some issues with the not specific issues. We just haven't threaded everything through. Like we don't have the Protobuf serializer yet.
I see.
I guess one of the challenges with something that's so easy is that the demo is very easy. Is there anything under the covers, Arlo, that that compare the complexity of what you just did with doing it without some of the changes we made recently? Obviously, being able to import the schema is huge. Is there any other magic going on under the covers?
Yeah, I mean, the schema is, I think, the biggest time saver, but I mean, setting up like the SASL users and stuff to do the authentication stuff is a little bit of a dance that we kind of can save by just using the Confluent Cloud APIs. That's something else that happens behind the scenes as well.
It's very cool. Well, I mean, what's interesting here is this. I mean, the airline data that Arlo showed is actually something that one of our prospective customers is using, and they actually want to take that IATA standard and use it to populate the desks, about the kind of check-in desks at the airport. So it's a real world use case that you know, decodable. It fits very well, and actually they currently do this all with Java, and it all works okay. But I think what we heard from them is that using decodable is just so much easier. They're willing to replace all their Java with decodable. So it's nice to see a lot of these real world use cases kind of coming through, and how folks are, you know, even willing to replace something that works with our easier option.
I've got another question.
Sure.
So what happens if the schema changes? Like, how does the story around like backwards and forwards compatibility?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, so the way that it works now is we just get the schema from the schema registry, and that's what we get. So if the schema changes, we'll have to go into decodable and update that. I mean, we've certainly talked about doing something like, you know, like maintaining that over time, but for now that's not in place. So, but you know, you can definitely go in and say, you know, load the schema again from the schema registry, and that's the way to do it. But it's definitely something that we're kind of open to hearing what people need, and we can work from there, I guess.
Yeah, the key is making sure that your changes are backwards compatible, so your pipelines and decodable don't break.
Yeah, and Confluent Cloud has some checks around that sort of thing too, right? When you try to evolve the schema, what they call it in Confluent Cloud, there's definitely a lot of changes they won't let you make backwards compatibility reasons.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and similarly in decodable, if you were to manually put a track change the schema in backwards incompatible ways, we don't let you do that as well.
Robert, do you use Confluence schema registry, or are you using Space?
Confluent.
Okay. The Space is like the equivalent. It's just a bunch of Confluent engineers that made an open source free version of both the schema registry and REST proxy. That's yeah, if that's something you'd like to look into. That's basically you'd be able to control your own schemas and validate them. There's a whole, you could write a whole book on how to evolve your schemas, really. And it's a difficult thing to solve. And the last place you want to probably do it is in like make your pipelines do it. A lot of times you have to just change your code, you recompile your skeletons and stubs, and then find those issues and problems at compilation time, and not real time, fail fast. What decodable actually does is it has techniques where you could do schema on write, basically the way you could treat a database when you write a record to a database and it doesn't follow the schema properly. You get an error, you fail fast. We actually implement a lot of those techniques in here so that you see those errors immediately, and you have to deal with them there.
Yeah, that'd be nice to see those errors.
Yeah, it's I'll give you an example. When you create like a let's say I'm creating an S3 sync connector and it's reading and expects a certain shape of the data, but the stream that is feeding it changes for some reason, so that there's the incompatibility there that's created. You won't be able to create or run that anymore. Basically, it'll start to complain. That's just one area where we kind of enforce that the schemas, right? But you don't really want to get to that point, is what I'm saying. Really, you want to just get to a place where you're prepared to make those changes at this level, and then at code level, really. I was told to introduce myself. I'm kind of new to to Decodable. I am a DevRel, staff DevRel, the new DevRel for Decodable. So definitely reach out to me if you have any questions on the community Slack channel and Twitter too as well. I actually came from Confluent. That's my last job.
I can actually show you the error. Maybe I'll just, can someone let me share? Okay, so this is, like one of the tests I did. I think this is probably truncated. Like I just like, after I created schema, I just like, okay, let me try to like put some junk into the topic and see what happens. What you will see is you will get a failed status. And you will see, like an error saying we can't deserialize the consumer record. We internally, I don't think we have exposed yet. You can also configure a connection to ignore errors like that if you really want. It's dangerous, so that's why we haven't exposed yet. But in some way, like you really just want to, make the records with the right schema to pass, and you don't want us to fail this pipeline or this connection. You could configure that flag. Does this make sense to you?
Yeah, this it seems like there's some sort of compatibility issue in the pipeline stopped, and I would imagine I would get some sort of alert or notification and maybe access to some logs somewhere to figure out where the compatibility issue is.
Yeah, absolutely. So at a high level, we have the separation of connections and pipelines. A lot of the compatibility check are on the connections where they interact with the external systems. So what that means is if a record passes through a connection, it will always have the right schema. So that means we would never encounter schema problems in pipelines. And then you can configure at the connection side whether you want to fail the pipeline or you want to just ignore the records essentially. And I think in the future we will have DLQ support where you can say, okay, if the record can't pass, we will put it in the DLQ and someone will go in and figure out how to do with it later.
Got it. So you're saying the control is at the connection level where you can choose either to ignore the records that don't follow the expected format or stop the connection altogether.
Exactly.
Thanks, Sharon. So I guess we're at the point where we'll just throw the floor open. Does anybody have any general questions, any experiences trying to use Decodable? Anything for the team? Or does any of the team want to throw anything in? Do they have any questions for other folks on the call? If not, then I think that's our call for today. Arlo, thank you so much for the demo. Sorry about some of the connectivity issues there, but I think we got the gist of most of that, and it's a great demo. Do you think are there any assets there that we can make available in the community Slack? I think Arlo is frozen again. Well, we will. So if you're not there already, please join us in our community Slack. The link is at the bottom of the web page. And we'll throw in there with some of the data and the pipeline so you can try some of this for yourself. And obviously, Confluent Cloud is great, and we've made it a lot easier, but there are other ways like HTTP that you could push that data into the pipelines. So that's it for today. We'll see you again next week, and everyone have a great weekend. Thanks. Bye now.